We've got a lot of coastline. We've got over 400 miles of coastline in our state of Rhode Island, and so there's a lot of development. There's a lot of homes, a lot of businesses, and all of the communities in the state, all 39 communities in the state, participate in the National Flood Insurance Program, and it is our duty to give folks the information that they need. My name is Michelle Burnett. I'm the State Floodplain Coordinator at Rhode Island Emergency Management Agency. There's a lot of insurance changes coming about. Last year, in 2012, the Bigot Waters Act was passed, and it basically reauthorized the National Flood Insurance Program. Within that legislation, it really started some forward thinking about taking flood insurance rates and making them more actuarial and not subsidizing them anymore. And so we're going to be seeing a lot of changes on the horizon in the next year or two when those subsidized rates start to get phased out, and folks that had grandfathered rates before, they're going to lose them over time. It's going to affect a lot of people. It's going to affect their pocketbooks, it's going to affect their wallets, and it's going to really, I think, be a huge eye-opener for folks that need flood insurance, because if you have, a federally backed mortgage, you have to have it. The flood insurance rate maps really, they kind of drive our program. Everything is based upon these maps, and so, oftentimes folks don't understand the maps. They don't understand why we have them, why we need them, why they're in them. But then we get into regulations and development and building and how to build properly. We deal with permitting issues, zoning issues, height issues, how to build to the standards, how to build to the building code. And so I'm certain that people are going to really be affected. There's a couple of things that folks can do to really try to make themselves more protected against flooding, to combat these storms and the storminess that we're seeing, is really to build smarter. If you're trying to build in these high-risk areas, you really want to check with your local officials. Talk to your building official, have him come to your property, have him do a site inspection, and go over the plans. If you have an engineer, if you have an architect, make sure they're familiar with the coastal zone and make sure they're familiar with the regulations. It's a whole different kind of construction. Floodproofing buildings and flood-resistant materials, these are all things that are unique to the coastal zone. And so you want to make sure that you're taking that into account, because the decisions that are made in the beginning of a process can affect the resiliency of the building. It can affect the resiliency of the whole neighborhood, but it can also affect the flood insurance premium on the property, in perpetuity. We're having more and more of these events. Rhode Island's had, 3 major disasters in 3 years. We had the floods in 2010, we had Irene in 2011, and we had Sandy in 2012. I mean, it's real, and the trend is just becoming ever more present. Sandy was definitely a wake-up call for our state, and I think it was a wake-up call for the residents along the coast. People are going to really be affected, and until it hits them financially, they may not take it as seriously. But again, the flood insurance rate maps, the risk that they portray isn't a future risk, it's a current risk. And so the flood insurance rate maps show that snapshot in time of right now. They don't even take into account the future, and so it's even more reason to be aware.